Now back to the convicted criminal who is now back in law enforcement custody tonight after violating his supervised release. Daquan Willard was arrested only days after he was granted clemency by President Biden and released from federal prison.
KCBD News Channel 11's Brittany Crittenden shows us now with how he violated that order. Brittany?
Well, Karen and Abner, court documents show Daquan Willard reported to the Lubbock probation office last week for his initial intake. When it was time for his drug test, an officer found he was hiding a plastic bag filled with diluted coffee. Willard then admitted to using synthetic marijuana, or K2, before he was released. Sheriff Rowe says this goes to show he shouldn't have been granted clemency in the first place.
You know, say it for what it is. I mean, if you want to let some of the worst of the worst back out on the street, say it for what it is.
When President Biden commuted the sentences for nearly 2,500 people in January, Sheriff Kelly Rowe says his office immediately started counting off names of people they've interacted with for high-level investigations and convictions.
You know, I do look at it as a very disingenuous statement to sit there and say, well, we're only targeting individuals that had nonviolent crimes, that had excessive sentences, or whatever the case might be. Who's the judge of what an excessive sentence is, other than the judge that assessed the sentence?
Biden shortened the sentences for Daquan Willard and brothers William and Jasmine Spence. They were all sentenced in what the federal government called a cocaine distribution conspiracy. In October of 2016, local and federal law enforcement raided 5 homes believed to be associated with the Crips street gang. They found 2 kilos of cocaine, nearly $40,000 in cash, and 3 guns, one of which was reported stolen.
I look at this in the sense that we've had dedicated men and women in law enforcement who are putting it all on the line. Because again, we're talking about dangerous offenders, where their activities in the course of an investigation are very high risk. The point of arrest, very high risk. And to see all of that work basically washed away, all of that risk washed away because of a political decision made, you know, in Washington, D.C., only serves to make me angry about it.
Willard, who violated his supervised release, was originally sentenced to 14 years in federal prison. A judge shortened that to 12 years in April before Biden cut it down to just over 8 before he left office. William Spence, who was sentenced to more than 15 years, is now set to be released in July, about 7 years early. President Biden allowed Jasmine Spence, who was sentenced to 12 years, to leave federal prison 3 days before Christmas.
The bottom line is I'm really confident that they have full access to know exactly what all, not only currently are those individuals incarcerated for, but also any history prior to this incarceration, because these aren't first-time offenders either.
Court documents show Willard would go back to prison for 3 to 9 months for this latest violation. We asked Rowe how these commutations compared to the clemency President Trump gave to those convicted for the January 6th Capitol attack. He says no matter who the president is, he believes there should be significant due diligence when it comes to who receives a pardon or a commutation. Karen.
Thank you, Brittany.